when the elite, whatever that means, when Bill Gates promotes something, he is not necessarily forcing anyone to do anything. He's not necessarily saying, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. He's not like, everything is based on consent, right? So he's not forcing you to engage in deviant sexual behaviors. He's just he's just allowing you to do that. And should you choose to do that, whether out of ignorance or lust or whatever kind of motivation you have, that is your choice,
it
right?
Almost makes the lower classes also contemptible in that they would fall for it, right?
Yeah, so I think that's part of the dehumanization process, is that when you poison people spiritually, psychologically, etc., that kind of poisoning is very different from a kind of like a forceful confrontation where you take a weapon and you stab them, right? Because in the one case, you're asserting yourself violently upon them. On the other case, you're kind of giving them an option. You're giving them a choice. And maybe you're giving them bad information. Maybe you're lying. Maybe you're deceiving. But ultimately, the one who kind of does the damage, is the person themselves. And so there's this kind of almost a plausible deniability of like, oh, I didn't do it. They did it to themselves. And also this is better because the people who make bad decisions will get punished and the people who make good decisions will survive. And so that's like the right order of the world. This is a reimposition of natural selection. So there's a lot of ways that you can rationalize this kind of behavior and say that this is positive, or necessary, or this is how Darwinian selection works. There's some kind of selective pressure, and people either pass the test or they fail. And that's just the way the world works. And there's no real escape from that. There's no such thing as infinite growth. Ultimately, there's no such thing as a world without consequences. There's always going to be tests that we either pass or fail, and it's just that in this case, there's a lot of misinformation out there about what is the test. I mean, a lot of people, if you ask, like, what's the test? People be like, how do I be happy? Like, what's the path to happiness? Like, how do I get the most happiness out of my life? It's like, well, okay, well, what does being happy mean? It means I get to do whatever I want whenever I feel like it. Nobody can tell me what to do. I'm the total master of my own domain, and I have this complete autonomy. And, when they describe things like that internally to the person in question, they just sort of just accept these things at face value. But then you kind of like look underneath them and you're like, wait a second, total autonomy? So isn't that just another word for alienation? Isn't that just another word for divide and conquer? Isn't that just another word for like complete lack of collective coherence and ability to organize and do teamwork? Isn't that just a way to destroy communities so that they can be gobbled up one by one and without having to face any kind of mass resistance? So it's about how you frame things. You basically frame things in a way that people think their prison is a protection, and you frame things in a way that the poison is viewed as a present. It's just funny. The German Gift, which in English means a present, in German means a poison. So, yeah, we've got that is the dynamic that you use if you are trying to eliminate an excess population that's not contributing to a productive economy, but rather a consumptive economy, and you realize this model is fundamentally unstable. I don't think the people who promote capitalism are ignorant about the nature of capitalism. I think they understand that the infinite growth model doesn't work. And I think that they view all the social ills and poisons that are already in place and are continuing to develop in ferocity as the ultimate solution. Is like the people who can't avoid the trap of TikTok and ideology and social media and all of that
Junk
stuff.
food.
And that's, yeah, junk food. It goes on and on. Pornography. Like, if you can't figure that out, if you can't, and it's not just figuring it out, because I think most people understand these things are bad. Like, at some point, if you corner people and you continue to Socratically question them, they'll admit social media is bad. They'll admit, like, yeah, we should probably just ban all social media. There's a huge amount of women and probably men as well who will say, yeah, we should probably just ban porn. We should probably just ban fast food. It would be nice if the government banned this. It'd be nice if the government banned that. We probably don't need this. And yet, a lot of the people, a significant proportion of the people that understand that all these things are really bad, are the same consumers of these poisons. And when you ask people, why don't you have the self control? There's a whole veil of peer pressure, pressure to conform, giving up, feeling like it's not worth it. Like, okay, let's say I passed all the tests and I avoided the junk food, I avoided the TikTok, I avoided the porn, I avoided social media. What would my prize at the end of the day be? There's kind of like this void. Suffering, yeah. Maybe there's the metaphysical worldview of most people is like life is inherently suffering, and the goal is to trick ourselves into feeling happy. The ultimate nature of reality is just this terrible, gross, mundane, boring thing, and we have to spend every second of our lives trying to escape from that reality, distract from it, pretend it doesn't exist. And I think when you sort of scratch people's metaphysical belief, like, if you don't have some kind of positive foundation, then if your answer is like, what's the meaning of life? If you can't come up with nothing, that is ultimately going to devolve into a negative. If not on a conscious basis, probably on an unconscious basis. What do you think? That's 7 minutes.